Okay, let's look into this. This is Cowboys State Daily newspaper. Ireland looking to kill 2,100 cows to fight climate change. Are US herds next? In the latest effort to reduce emissions from agriculture, Ireland said it may kill 200,000 cows. Meanwhile, climate activists have American farms and ranches in the crosshairs. Climate activists are coming for livestock producers and farmers. European governments have been targeting the agriculture industry for several years. The Telegraph reports that Ireland's government may need to reduce that country's cattle herds by 2,100 cows other than the next 3 years to meet climate targets. In an effort to reduce nitrogen pollution, Reuters reported the European Union last month approved a 1.6 billion Dutch plan to buy out livestock from farmers, I think they meant. Front and center. Now the Biden administration is targeting American agriculture. Special President Envoy for Climate John Kerry recently warned at a climate summit for the US Department of Agriculture that the human race's need to produce food to survive creates 33% of the world's total greenhouse gases. 33, the Masonic number, and John Kerry is a climate envoy. I thought he was Secretary of State, which is used to be Secretary of State, which is a specialist in foreign policy. We can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center as part of the solution, Kerry said. Microsoft billionaire Bill Gates also is obsessing about cattle emissions, providing financial support to companies that are developing seaweed supplements and gas masks for cows. It's groupthink. Casey Atkinson, an agricultural advocate who raises cattle in Albany County, told Cowboys State Daily that this conversation on emissions from the industry isn't considered the beneficial impacts of cattle to the environment and the climate. Groupthink happens a lot around the climate change conversation. We get tunnel visioned on the one piece of it without considering the full ramifications of what's going to happen if we remove cattle from the land, Atkinson said. She said cattle contribute to drought resistance, soil health, and wildlife reduction. Just before cattle were introduced to North America and the industry began raising them, Atkinson said there were thousands of buffalo roaming the plains. Cows and buffalo are both ruminants, which is a type of animal that brings back food from its stomach and chews it again. These animals' digestive system produce methane emissions. Today's cattle population is similar in numbers to that of the buffalo herds. So the methane emissions from ruminant animals aren't anything new, Atkinson said. Trapping carbon. Cattle also benefit plant life, Atkinson said. You need ruminant animals to forage grasses because they are the only things that can, she explained. Pigs, for example, are monogastric and can't break down high fiber content in grasses. Cows' digestive system can break the grass down and then they fertilize the ground. So through proper cattle grazing management, Atkinson said, the cattle she's raising are helping plants to grow. In the atmosphere, the methane they burp out, most of it is released through the mouth of the animal, breaks down into 10 to 15 years into carbon dioxide and water. The plants that cattle help to grow use that carbon dioxide. The carbon then gets put back into the soil through the grass's roots. So the cattle are essential in helping to keep that carbon trapped in the ground, Atkinson said. Atkinson said cattle have other benefits to the climate that are being ignored in the focus on just their emissions. Whenever soil cracks or fissures, it releases carbon into the air. The animals walking upon the soil compacts it and helps keep the carbon trapped in the soil. She said one study done by the University of Florida found that between 10% and 30% of the world carbon storage is found under the feet of the U.S. cattle. Increasing food insecurity. Brett Moline, spokesperson from the Wyoming Farm Bureau, told Cowboys State Daily that the regulations that would likely flow from ideas like carries would only make farming and ranching more expensive. Ultimately, those expenses would get passed down to the consumer. It's going to make food expensive, and we still have a large part of the population that is food insecure, Moline said. Of course, people aren't going to stop eating. If farms in North America and Europe shut down, food production will move to countries with lax environmental regulation. The end result, Moline said, is less environmentally friendly farming producing the world food supply. As far as the climate impacts, Moline said, those are getting blown out of proportion when everything is blamed on climate change, such as the drought in the past couple years. 2 years ago it was drier than my jokes, he said. Now we are getting wet again, climate ebbs and flows. Other benefit. Atkinson said that 1 of the 8 people in the US is considered food insecure, which means they don't have a sufficient source of nutrition. By removing cattle, Atkinson said they are just furthering that problem by eliminating a valuable protein source from the American diet. There are also a lot of food byproducts that cows consumers feed. This includes the leftover pulp from orange juice production, the hulls from almonds, and the peels of potato from making French fries. All that would just end up in a landfill, Atkinson said. Cattle are also not just a source of food. Products including some laundry detergents, nail polish removers, soaps, lotions, football, and pharmaceuticals are made from animal byproducts. It would be a pretty significant undertaking to replace all of the things that we get from them, Atkinson said. So they want to get rid of cows, basically, and they want to replace them with insects, and they want people to get their protein from insects. That's where they're heading. And do cows really emit methane or whatever? Do you really think that? I don't think so. So I basically think that nobody should eat cows, but everybody is allowed to drink their milks. Nobody should kill them. But however, people must know this, that everything they say is a lie. Like they need something from someone, and they're going to lie why they need it, and they're going to build a huge mountain of lies about how they're going to get it, and they're going to make a lot of people bankrupt, impoverished, unhappy, and unhealthy in between. So my idea of this whole thing is that basically the truth is that they get iron from cow's blood. So when a cow gets killed in the abattoir, it gets hung on a hook and then it bleeds, and on the floor they collect this blood. Some of this blood even goes to iron supplement to people who lack iron. They may call it B12, or they even make things like chocolate bars from it, in Russia at least. So what is happening is that they make iron, the metal, out of cow's blood. That's what I think is the core issue here. So basically all these government and government-related companies, which are military companies, all these years they had all these huge shadow budgets where they were unaccountable, and they, in my view, the US budget and in general the European budget, the NATO budget, for many decades they were just having these things on paper. So when it came to really having this conflict in Russia or with China, and when it came to having this real war and real bullets and real equipment, military equipment that is made of steel, like for example, they don't mine this iron from or somewhere in the cave, which is possible, for example, when there are huge burials of animals dying or something like that. There could be iron there in the ore, but I think what happens is that they really take iron from cows that are living, like people eat meat, and the carcasses, the skin goes for leather products, and the blood goes to produce iron. They mix it in the oven with ash from like certain trees, burnt, and they mix it with other chemicals, make it crystallize, for example, and they cast iron in these hot, very hot ovens. That's the way I see it. That's the way the knights had these iron tools in the Middle Ages, the swords and whatnot, the shields that they produced. So basically now, for example, United Kingdom doesn't have enough warships. The warships are falling apart. The submarines are falling apart at the seams. So basically, the whole time, the United States military companies like BlackRock or whatever, Blackwater, whatever, they have been stealing, they have been winning contracts, and they have been doing nothing. They haven't been inventing anything. They have nothing to show up for it. So they have just been drawing numbers and lying about things that they produce, and they are left without guns, without bullets, without all these things that military needs to in order to make tanks, in order to make other equipments, rockets, and so on and so forth. So basically, they try to force farmers and making and they use this climate shit. It's total bullshit, this methane thing that they burp methane. This is total bullshit. And I think what Bill Gates does is that they think that the blood even that they produce now is not good enough because the equipment falls apart at the seams. So they have been poisoning cattle. They have been poisoning water. So the cattle has been drinking this water that they aim for people to drink, for example, and they made cow's blood also poisonous. So basically, the quality of iron is not what it used to be, and that's why Bill Gates is trying to make the cows eat seaweed, I think, to clear their blood somewhat, so that the product that they will get from it, which is basically steel, iron, the metal that is needed for military industry, would become high quality once again. So they polluted everything, air, water, in order to cull the human population. But side effect of it, that the animals also get all these cancers and other seizures and weird diseases that they produce with their heavy metal and organophosphates. Anyways, this basically means that they are trying to force farmers to give up their cows, and they are trying to make them cull them in order to get very quickly their blood. So they're trying to obtain steel as fast as possible to build tanks and whatnot. In my opinion, this is what is happening, because they are trying to cover up that they have been stealing from all these military budgets this whole time, and they don't have much of equipment left. Like, they have nothing to send to Ukraine as aid because they ran out of it, and they don't want to be busted that they don't have much of stuff to defend the United States shall the United States start war with China. So they're trying to force private owners, private companies, if there are any left, not related to the government, private farmers who have been doing this cow grazing, cow business for very long time. They're trying to force them to cull their population in order to obtain blood from them, in order to produce iron from it. Anyways, I'm just saying that they have been stealing money, military budget this whole time, buying islands for pedo purposes or whatever. They haven't been doing much, and they don't want to be busted because all these BlackRock and Vanguard and other such stuff is basically what owns the United States banks. Once they get busted, then all the United States banks are going to get, major banks are going to get bankrupted, because you think that there is this BlackRock and that it has this huge arsenal of armor behind it, and Vanguard and whatnot, but they actually don't. They don't have it. That's why they are desperately trying to push this agenda about climate, which is total bullshit, that cows are somehow guilty and cows of all animals need to be killed. Anyways, that's my take on it, and this is a very bad omen, and it looks like the prophecies are true. The prediction about all these banks going bankrupt in the United States is true, and this means that US is heading for Great Depression. Anyways, I think that all these people like Kerry and Vicky Noland and this Anthony Blinken, Clinton clan, the Bushes, Obamas, and so on. This guy named, I forgot him. I always forget him. Anyways, they need to be held accountable. They need a quick trial and execution. They need to be placed at the fire squad. They need to be, electrocuted, have lethal injections in them, because they are trying to hide that the US is bankrupt, and that they are trying to hide that people of the United States are hiding for disaster, and they are grabbing desperately at the straws, and they are trying to end the only food security that they have left. The United States, the cowboys, the farms, the milk that they produce that can always keep the guts full.